Hello, everyone. Dean here from Teacup Analytics. I hope you can hear me. You'll see the ability to ask questions, give feedback if there's any issues with the sound or anything like that. Just let me know, and we'll figure out how to handle it. So we'll may as well dive in. I think we should give folks, as I can see a bunch of people still logging in now. So let's give it another minute and we'll dive in. And in the meanwhile, any questions or feedback, feel free to ask. All right. You know what? Let's dive right in. Great. So thanks so much for joining me for this webinar. I'll tell you a little bit about me and Teacup very briefly, and then we'll dive in. But let's start at the very start. This webinar is titled Opportunity or Optimize, the only two possible outcomes of analysis. And while I certainly know that sounds like quite a bold statement, I think by the end of this you'll agree. It's worth mentioning we're always talking at a fairly high level here, and obviously you can always get more sophisticated or more granular at any moment, but I do certainly believe that even at a more granular level, this concept and philosophy still applies. So let's move on. A little bit about who I am. I'm South African. You probably hear my slightly kooky accent. I'm originally a farm boy in South Africa, but I lived in the United States for about 16 years. I previously built a company with my brother called Mad Mimi Email Marketing, and it was acquired by GoDaddy in 2014, and we then, with GoDaddy, built GoDaddy Email Marketing. And I was the chief of culture for Mad Mimi, which effectively means I spent a lot of energy and time focusing on marketing, customer support, customer success, the growth of the company. Anything that was not directly developer related was my role as chief of culture. And at GoDaddy, I was director of online support. I left GoDaddy at the start of this year, February or March, and founded Teacup Analytics. The reason I founded Teacup Analytics was because over a decade of working with small businesses with regards to their marketing, I realized that a lot of people really had a lot of questions, not only about analytics in general, but Google Analytics specifically. And that's what Teacup Analytics focuses on. I currently live in Tel Aviv, Israel. I've been here for about 2 years. And I'm a runner. I surf when I can and travel. So I see that someone says there's an echo. Let me think what I can do. I'm talking directly into a phone, so there shouldn't be an echo, but let me, just in case, mute everything else around me. Do you guys still hear the echo? Let's see. Maybe I can hear an echo back. I think I might hear that echo. All right. Well, my options are, I'll wait a little bit and see if other folks hear this echo. If you can post it as a question or as feedback, I'll keep an eye on it. And if so, I'll just hang up and redial in. Cool. Well, I'll press on and I'll just watch for any more feedback from you guys. So a little bit about Teacup. Teacup launched this year in March of 2016, and what we do is we make Google Analytics data simple. And how do we do that? We have a library of 30 ready-made or over 30 ready-made reports. Great. Okay, so I think it was my computer was not muted. Okay, great. I'll press on. Thanks, guys. So we have 30 or over 30 analyst-crafted reports, and everything's framed as a question and answer. Of course, it's back as I dive in. You know what? If everyone will bear with me, I'll just hang up and call back in and see if that solves the issue. Thanks, everyone, for the feedback and letting me know. Great. Can you guys hear me again? How's that? Any better? I'll assume it's better, and I'll keep pressing on again, and I'll just keep an eye on the questions or the feedback area, and I'll wait for more feedback from you guys. Thanks. Great. So back into what Teacup does. So we have lots of reports, and the way we frame all our reports is question and answer. So we have heard from hundreds of businesses. The common questions, certainly it's focused more on small businesses, like where did my traffic come from? How often are people visiting my website? And our reports are built around answering these specific questions. Another thing that Teacup does quite well is actually grade qualitatively. So what we do is we analyze recent traffic in the last few months, and we say, okay, what is average? What's the normal behavior for your web traffic? And then we grade your current channels and segments and web traffic relative to that. So you can, at a glance, see which channels are performing above or below average. And also, we have a feature called Achievables that if you do decide to act and make a change regarding a metric like your conversion rate, we'll monitor the impact of your action on that metric for that channel or segment or landing page or whatever, and let you know over the next few months if it indeed gets, if you do indeed beat your previous average. So I see that this isn't getting better. I'm sorry. Unfortunately, I don't have much that I can do about this, except I can try sign in one more time with a different method. Give me 2 more minutes to give this one more shot. Thanks everyone for your patience with sorting out this audio issue. Cheers.
Okay, how about now? I hope this is better. I hope everyone can hear me better. So I see some folks can hear me better. So you know what? I'm going to have to just press on because I'm out of options, unfortunately. But hopefully this will end up working. Great. So that's enough about Teacup Analytics. We've spent enough time talking about me. Let's actually dive into analysis. The big question that every analyst actually hears from their clients, from themselves, from the businesses they work with is, can you analyze my data and tell me where to improve? And that's something we're really going to focus on solving. So we're going to hopefully make this an easy question to answer. So let's talk about why analysis actually matters very briefly. And I know most of you, and I'm so glad I see that things are working better now. It's quite funny, I actually switched from a phone to Skype. So way to go, Skype. Cool. Why analysis actually matters. We're here to reduce uncertainty. And the reason I'm talking about this before diving into the actual methodology is because I want to set the stage of how we're going to think about analysis when we actually get into the methodology. And so I just want to cover this stuff. I'll zoom through it and hopefully I won't go over too much that you guys already know. So analysis, to define it, is the breaking down of a complex topic to gain a better understanding. And the goal of analysis is always to reduce uncertainty. And that means increasing confidence in business decisions and inspiring new decisions to act backed by data. And the end result of analysis should indeed be action, because let's be honest, if we're investing a huge amount of time, whether it's money, man hours, whatever, to just find interesting correlations or interesting ideas, analysis is actually kind of a waste. But if the end goal is action, so then it's worthwhile. And for data to be useful, it must drive decisions that lead to positive outcomes. That means always keeping in mind what it is that you need to accomplish for your business, for yourself, etc. And without the commitment to acting, analysis is superfluous. It's a waste of time. And one of my favorite quotes from Ben Yoskowitz of Lean Analytics, that's a book, a really great book, is a good metric changes the way you behave. One can imply from that if you're looking at data that is not changing the way you behave, it's not good. Analysis needs context. And without context, it's really hard to actually make decisions. So one thing that I found I often did myself, and in working with many analysts with my last business, is that we'd often look at things in a vacuum. And so I realized that once you started acting on that, you started really getting confused and channeling budget and time and manpowers away from where things need to actually be. And so with that in mind, data should always be understood in context. And that means asking yourself, is my analysis encouraging actions that meet current business goals? There are many types of context. So let's actually add some context below here. Now, this may seem a simplistic chart, but bear with me for a second. A type of context could be task or output. And so when you're analyzing a specific output, you should analyze that within the context of other tasks and their outputs. And the same thing, if you're analyzing the performance of a team, you should analyze an individual in the team relative to his peers, or analyze the team and that team's output in the context of other teams. Similarly, departments should be compared to other departments in the same company, and companies should always be, if you're analyzing it, if you're analyzing your company in the context of achieving business goals, I think it should be analyzed in the context of previous years rather than, for example, benchmarking. So I see that my voice has gone again. I appreciate the feedback. I hope others can hear me. I unfortunately, I think I'm going to have to just like a bull press on because I'm out of solutions. Sorry, guys. And apparently someone has no visa and no pants, which I'll mark as answered. Great. So very, very cool question, that one, but I'll move on with that as well. Okay, great. So context really matters. Another thing that I'd like to just chat about is segmentation. And I like to segment things not by demographics, but by intent. And I'll explain that a little bit more as well. The foundation for our analysis lies in context. And context is provided by segmentation. And so, for example, you're not going to analyze the output of a team. You analyze the output of the individuals on the team. That's segmentation. Segmentation implies intent, because you're now understanding what does that segment want. And so understanding intent provides the actionable direction. And before we dive into the demographics, I'll just focus a little bit, awesome, so others can hear, great. Intent trumps demographics, but let's discuss why for a second. So if we're looking at, I'm a web analytics guy, so I like to always talk about different web channels, but this does apply to internal metrics as well, and team metrics, marketing, etc. So if you know that you have different groups, male and female, that's great. You can target ads by what you think men like and what you think women like. I don't find that broad enough, focused enough. I find that actually incorrect in many regards, because a single father looking for a bib is as likely to buy that bib as a mother who happens to have a family of 5 kids and a husband and their grandmother involved, also needs that bib. By understanding that they came from a keyword search for bibs for their baby is far more effective than understanding their gender, demographic makeup, income, etc. So I think focusing on the intent, as in what brought them to me, what are they looking for when they enter my funnel, is far more impactful than segmenting by demographics. I know there are going to be some that disagree, and there are certainly moments where demographics is absolutely vital, but for our discussion today, we're not thinking about segmenting by demographics. We're segments by intent, and intent for me is the next step right before conversions. So by understanding conversions, by understanding intent, you can optimize better for conversions. Great. Let's get to the good stuff. I have to give credit for this idea. It's not my concept. It's not my idea. The first I ever heard of this was from an amazing analyst named Tim Wilson, who he works with Analytics Demystified. I hope that you guys know Analytics Demystified. Certainly their team is ubiquitous on the convention circuit, etc. But Eric Peterson of Analytics Demystified wrote pretty much the seminal web analytics book. So I certainly urge everyone to check out Analytics Demystified. And the idea came in a fairly unformed, off-the-cuff blog post that he wrote in May 2015 titled Only Two Reasons for Analysis. And you can see, obviously, where the inspiration comes from. The premise that Tim brought up is that analysis is effective in 2 situations: when there's a problem and when there's a potential opportunity. And we're going to discuss that. So another interesting quote I thought is from Andy Grove, the manager guy. he was I think CEO of Intel for a long time, but he wrote some amazing books on management. And he says indicators tend to direct your attention toward what they are monitoring. It's like riding a bicycle. You will probably steer it where you are looking, and you can see why I think context matters so much, because if you're just looking to the left by not paying attention to what else is around you, you're going to steer your bicycle right into a wall. Okay, so here we get into a graph, and this doesn't look like much, but bear with me. At the x-axis here is activity, and the y-axis is results. So you can also think about the x-axis as input. You can think about the x-axis as volume. The x-axis is the amount of people, things, whatever we put into the funnel, and the y-axis is what comes out of that funnel. That's our results, our return on investment, our conversions, our sales. So activity would be customers walking through our door. Results would be purchases or revenue. It depends, and we'll discuss some ideas on how to actually decide what goes into that left-hand, the y-axis as well. And let's focus on the x-axis. You've got low amounts of activity all the way up to a lot of activity. And the same thing, we have results below and above. I'm not talking necessarily about a few results and a lot of results. We're talking about expectation here. We're saying below expectation, above expectation. So you can think of where results is right bisecting vertically in the middle, horizontally in the middle, in the vertical middle. So you want to think about a line going straight through from the word results all the way left to right as average expectations, like tolerable expectations. So I didn't feel it looked great with a line straight through the middle, but you'll see, and keep that in mind. Now, in the middle of this is our context. So we're going to feed things into this graph to provide our context. And the next thing to keep in mind as we evolve this graph a little bit is these two areas. So you'll see let's look at the top left corner. This area is above expectation results, so higher than average return, good output, but because it's in the left-hand side of the graph, it's low activity. And the same thing, the bottom right is high activity, but results that are below expectation or below ideal, below average. And if we actually then form this into a little bit more of a clear graph, you can see the only possible outcomes. If something in the top left, if something falls in this zone in the top left, it's a growth opportunity. And if something falls in the bottom right, as in it's high activity but low results, it needs optimization. So to summarize, right? Low volume, amazing results, grow it. Pour more people into that funnel. Whereas if you're pouring people into the funnel with below expected results, don't put more people into that funnel. That's a waste of money and a waste of investment. It's far better to optimize first, raise that conversion rate, get the results to a place that you want. And then in the middle is the do nothing zone. So I say there's three possible outcomes of analysis, and these are the three outcomes. The three outcomes are, or the three, let's call it, recommendations are do nothing because it's either too low volume and too low results. So in the bottom left corner, where below and low kind of meet, this area is, the results are lousy, but at the same time, there's not much activity going on, so it's not worth an investment. And the top right corner of the do nothing zone is full capacity. The activity is high, the results are high. So you might think that's the place to invest, but you're going to have it's a real limited opportunity to get returns. What's it? The diminishing returns in the top right corner. Whereas in the top left corner and the bottom right corner, these are the areas where you can really move the needle. You can make a solid impact with your investment and time. So if something falls in that bottom right corner, we can say, well, what is causing the poor results? Let's investigate, let's optimize. And if something at the top left, can we increase activity? Let's go, let's grow, let's pour more customers into the funnel, let's increase the budget on these ads, etc. So if we hark back to our very first question, being that every analyst hears, the question is, can you look at my data and make a recommendation? Tell me what to do. Well, this is exactly what we're going to focus on, right? If something falls in the bottom right, tell me what to do. Optimize this channel. Tell me what to do. Grow this channel if it falls in the top left. Now, let's just discuss this a little bit. I think I can zoom through this section because you'll have heard most of it already. All analysis boils down to three possible actions, and then we're going to get into case studies. Action one is do nothing. You do nothing when activity is insignificant and results are poor. It's not worth your time and effort. It's too hard to make an impact, or it's already performing brilliantly. Action two is optimize. And that's in the bottom right corner. Activity or volume is significant, but conversions suck, i.e. that traffic, that activity is a low quality, is low quality. And if we're going to talk about, let's talk customers, this channel of customers, this ad, for example, is bringing us low quality potential customers, low quality leads. It's a leaky bucket. And so before adding more water, you got to plug those leaks. And here you're not worrying about volume, you're optimizing for results. And the third option is to grow. Activity is low, but conversions are great. That's a high quality channel and ripe for growth because the bucket is watertight. I wasn't sure if watertight was actually a word. Those leaks are plugged, let's pour that water in. And so just one more time, if you wanted to take a look at the graph with that in mind. So let's look at a case study. Now, these are all my case studies are real numbers. Well, not the quick fire case studies that we'll get to in a few minutes, but they are all real numbers, but I've approximated them on the graph. So, don't hold me to the exact notch where 75% should sit on the graph. It'll be close enough. So this is fairly zoomed out, but what we're actually looking at is a teacup analytics report called Where Did My Traffic Come From Last Week? We're going to focus and zoom in a second in that middle area. But a teacup report looks at your traffic of the last week. It looks at it quantitatively in the graph, and then qualitatively in the middle section, which we call the primary metrics. And in that final section is the segmentation. But we're going to focus, just keep that quantity in mind, and we're going to focus on the quality because that's really what matters in our discussion. And so here we have direct. Direct is our biggest volume with 63,000 visitors. And the grade is a B. So let's think about the graph where we said results of expectation. This would sit right in the middle. Organic search is an A+ in terms of quality, and quality is results. So that's going to be high up in the graph, but because it's also high volume, you'll see it's going to be more to the top right. Referral, paid search, email, these are all kind of average, and social is my low quality. That is my bottom left. And then we'll also discuss how we calculate quality is based on bounce rate, conversion rate, time on site, and pages per session. But let's map this out on the graph. So you'll see where each of these channels sits in the graph, and let's answer the question, right? What do we do? Analyze my data and make a recommendation. Tell me what to do. So at a glance, forget social media. And this actually, it's great. I spoke to a customer about 2 months ago, and she spent 3 hours a day on social media, and she got about 2,000 to 3,000 visits a week from social media, which for her was huge. She was a solopreneur. But it mapped out on the graph exactly like this. And so the simple answer was save 3 hours a day and put that into growing one of these channels. And it's made a significant difference to her actual revenue. This stuff really works in a practical area. But to analyze this, we can choose to grow organic search. We can send more email newsletters. We can focus on growing our referral traffic, or we can actually increase our budget for paid search in general, or we can optimize direct traffic. Any of these actions will actually have a significant impact on our business. The only thing we don't want to actually focus on at all is social. So you see here, by mapping everything out, we've provided the context, right? Because it's not enough to say I get high quality traffic from referral. How do you know that referral's the choice? It's because we're looking at where all of our traffic is coming from, both quantitatively and qualitatively. And by mapping them out on this graph, we're able to make a solid, intelligent decision of where to put our investments of both time and money. So let's drill down. By the way, you'll notice that I highlighted referral. So I decided in my head here, in my example, that we're going to optimize, that we're going to focus on referral traffic. So I'm going to grow referral traffic. I'm going to spend more time actually working on reaching out to relevant blogs and media and try and maybe work with a PR company, etc. And if I see this move over here into the right-hand side, or the a little bit higher up in the top right, then for sure that will have worked. But at the same time, we can drill down and we can look at individual metrics that make up the quality. And so it doesn't have to work channel versus channel. It can work metric versus metric. If I want to optimize a channel, well, I'm going to compare the various engagement metrics. It doesn't only have to be conversion, because if I make an impact to my bounce rate, I'm probably also going to move the conversion rate needle. If I get people to stick around longer, I'm also going to I'm going to have a positive impact to this channel. But again, if you need to look at which metric to focus on, which customer behavior to focus on, we map it out on the graph. And so I can see that I can focus on trying to improve my conversion rate, or I can actually try and get my bounce rate a little bit lower. I'm not going to put too much energy on time insight and site depth simply because they're so far above expectation that it's unlikely an improvement on them is going to be significant. And so in my example, I'm going to try and move my conversion rate from a C relative to my traffic to an A. And that means move it out of the optimized realm into the do nothing realm. And then once it's sitting comfortably in the do nothing realm, I might want to focus on bounce rate next. Cool. So let's talk about a third dimension. So I was chatting to a financial analyst last week about this webinar, and he said, fine, well, we need a third dimension because on the graph, 2 dimensions is not enough. And I actually disagree because I sat with him for 2 hours and we mapped various dimensions. We changed what our X and Y axes were. We tried different metrics to actually create a bubble chart out of this and see if it changed it. It did not impact the analysis in any way. And I certainly will challenge you guys to try it yourselves. I'm sure there is, it's not problematic to include things like cost, but it doesn't actually change the placement, because if something's high cost, it might make your bubble bigger. But at the same time, if it's below expectations, you have to optimize. If it's above expectations, it doesn't matter what the cost is because the returns are above expectation and you still want to grow that channel. So the way to remove that third dimension and stay in 2 dimensions is to consider the x-axis as input and the y-axis as output. And sometimes that means rolling up things like time and cost into one overall metric and mapping that on the x-axis. But ultimately, it results in a simpler concept. So rather than a third dimension, play around with what you consider the axes. So you could consider conversion rate for the y-axis, or you can consider profit in the y-axis, or return on investment. And that factors in elements like cost while keeping your graph simple. So again, take a look at this, and we can make any of these bubbles bigger or smaller. It doesn't change where they go. So we can say cost is our x-axis and return on investment is our y-axis, and remove activity entirely. We're still going to learn something very useful. And you can always, once you've decided to focus on a channel, you can drill down further, like I did with the referral channel. You can remap one of these elements into its own more granular version of this graph. Cool. So let's look at a quick case study about customer success. So we're out of web analytics. I can tell you a true story about my time at Mad Mimi. At Mad Mimi, we decided to tackle churn. And how we noticed that certainly our churn rate was below ideal. And we noticed that customers who stuck around tended to use certain features. And if they use these features, it maximized their experience with the company, and it also meant that they stuck around. We ended up with a higher LTV, higher lifetime value. So customers that utilized certain features had a higher lifetime value and a lower churn rate. So let's map this out. Feature 1 was composing a newsletter. Mad Mimi was a newsletter design application. One of our competitors was MailChimp, Constant Contact, iContact, etc. So if you've done any email marketing, Mad Mimi is a competitor. So feature 1, composing a newsletter. Obviously, if you're going to actually sign up with a newsletter platform, you want to compose a newsletter. 90% of signups composed the newsletter. However, only 10% of people who composed the newsletter upgraded from free to paid. That's our result. We're looking for upgrades in this example. And by the way, I should say, these are not really hard and fast numbers. I'm being approximate partially for privacy, partially for ease of use. So let's map feature 1 on the graph. Composing a newsletter, high activity. 90% of our customers hit the compose button, but only 10% ever upgraded. So our y-axis is upgrades. Feature 2, importing a list of customer email addresses. About 60% of signups imported their email list. That's the activity. And again, 60% of those upgraded. And that's our result. So let's add this one to the graph. Import the list. That sits comfortably a little bit above expectation and above average in terms of activity. Feature 3, customizing the design with available tools and images. Only about 20% of customers took the time to design their newsletters. And by design, I mean they imported their own banner image, they customized the color scheme, etc. They really made it, they branded their email newsletter. 80% of customers, however, with well-designed, branded, customized newsletters upgraded. And these are the people that stuck around and had the highest long-term value. Lifetime value, LTV, you get it. So customization, low activity, but way above average results, way above expectation. So, I mean, you guys can see immediately what needs to happen. The analysis showed better designed newsletters resulted in higher lifetime value and retention. The actions we needed to optimize the compose process to encourage customization and increase the number of well-designed newsletters by offering free design. So once we knew that we needed to get, I'm going to just go backwards. Once we knew that we needed to get more people customizing, we could say, well, fine, the analysis shows we need more branded newsletters. How do we do that? Well, let's brainstorm, let's make a test. Our hypothesis was if we actually gave hands-on help to certain customers to get their branded image, to offer help onboarding them and help them customize their newsletter, we could move this one to the top right. Or at the same time, we could move this one to the top right. Actually, that same action impacted both of these. It was quite convenient. So the real life result was a huge increase in customer retention. This was a very successful analysis and successful project. So here we go. We can see it one more time. I shouldn't have gone backwards. Great. So let's look at online advertising because I think this is a classic and really useful. And then I have some quick fire ones. And yeah, online ads are very well suited to this technique. This helps unearth the best performing ads that are worth your budget increases, and it also unearths the ones that you need to cut the budget for until you optimize, whether it's optimizing the landing page, improving the copy, etc. So ads are perfect for this, quite simply because it's a really ripe sandbox to test in. And while it's a lot of mixed metaphors there, but I think you'll get the idea. You can do it at campaign. You can compare campaign to campaign, or you can compare ad to ad. Campaign versus campaign is the context. If you have 10 campaigns running, you can lay them out in the graph with clicks and conversions, or clicks and ROI as the two axes, and you'll see exactly which campaigns or ads need to be need more investment or need optimization. So let's look at a hypothetical. If we have campaign 1, 75% conversion rate, and let's say what's this, about 75% click-through rate. So that's a dream ad. But this, by the way, doesn't have to be out of 100%. You can kind of normalize it to whatever your top is. Just put your best performing near the right and near the top right, really. So our second campaign, 72% conversion rate, but low click-through rate. Our third campaign, 51% conversion rate, so just about expectation relative to the others, but also low click-through rate. And campaign 4, tons of clicks, but low conversion rate. So what I would really do is I would look first at campaign 4, and I would say, okay, I'm getting tons of clicks. So clearly the audience that sees this finds it compelling, why are they not converting? It's one of two reasons. I'm either appearing relevant to the wrong crowd, so I need to change my copy, optimize my copy, or I'm appealing to the right crowd, but my landing page sucks, and I'm not don't have the right call to action, or I don't have the right landing page. And actually, one of my classic examples that I see all the time is that people don't use a landing page that's customized for the intent. We're back to segmentation and intent. Who is clicking on this ad? What are they expecting? Am I serving that intent? And so that's how I would optimize campaign 4. Similarly, I would simply pour more money into campaign 2. It's awesome. The conversion rate is great. Let's increase the budget. And I might increase the budget tentatively with campaign 3. And the goal is always move as much stuff into this top right area, the top right square, if you will. And then these ads will be paying for themselves. So let's run through some quick-fire examples. The reason I added these quick-fire examples is because I wanted you to see that this doesn't have to only be web analytics. It can be a lot of ideas. So we've got employee retention. This is one of my favorite aspects. I actually use this with my team, and to brag a little bit, in 9 years of working with a customer support team, I had 0 turnover. Like literally no one quit because we focused on this stuff. We'll take a look at Chris down here. Chris has lots of interactions with customers, but the customer satisfaction is low. What do? I look at Chris's interactions. I'll review his emails with them or his phone calls. I listen to him and I'll see why he leaves the customers feeling dissatisfied. And so rather than firing Chris, I'll train Chris. So Chris, who's got a high productivity, can also improve his actual quality. And so the quantity is great. Let's improve the quality and get Chris up to the top right. Vanessa, fantastic, very productive and leaves customers feeling valued. Matthew leaves customers feeling valued, but is not so productive. So I would work with Matthew to increase his speed, get him off the phone quicker and onto the next call, or answering more emails, or chatting with more people. And Allison over here also, low productivity, but good customer satisfaction as expected. So Allison, again, a little bit more training. Can we increase Allison's productivity without sacrificing her quality? And by the way, in terms of employee retention, if your employees are both productive and effective, you're not going to lose any of them. They'll stick with you. So content marketing, you can look at articles written with the target keyword, conversion, shares, refer, whatever you actually use to monitor the success of a piece of content. So we've got free email marketing as a keyword, email marketing tips keyword, free email newsletters, email list. Again, email list, this is actually inspired by another real life example. The email list, I wrote an article years ago for Mad Mimi's blog called Buying an Email List, Read This First. Or thinking of buying an email list, read this first. It was one of our highest trafficked blog posts, huge SEO value, tons and tons of people found it through organic search. It really brought us a lot of traffic over the next 4 years. The problem is the keyword was email list. And so people searching email list were finding it. So why are email list people not ending up signing up for Mad Mimi? Because they were searching, it's the intent. The intent was purchasing an email list. But my article was, if you buy an email list, you can't use our product because we would consider that spam. No matter. So that's a classic thing. If we realize this needs to be optimized, we investigate, we see that the content doesn't match intent. So I know email list is not such a great keyword. I might actually try and aim to move this down into the do nothing area as well by not writing any more articles about email list. Free email newsletters, fine. Email marketing tips, both of these are low traffic because they're very competitive keywords, but the conversions are great. So I would really work hard, more articles with these keywords, maybe use paid ads for these keywords. share these articles on Facebook and LinkedIn, etc. And free email marketing, lots of clicks on lots of articles, also lots of conversions, so it's doing great. Again, you can just see that there's lots and lots of situations that this idea applies to. And here's another one. I don't remember how many of these I actually ended up creating. I think this is the last one. So there's a sort of classic telecom, let's call it data thought experiment. Can you reduce churn on contract renewal in telecom situations? So here's one inspired by that. Let's say you have different offers to people whose contracts are coming up for renewal. So you can offer 25% of those people a 10% discount on a 1-year renewal, or a 20% discount on a 2-year renewal, or a 25% off. These don't really matter. You can read them for yourselves. But the point is, all right, my presentation is going to end very soon, so I'm going to rush through. Point is, you can use this concept for everything. Sorry, guys, I got a warning that it's going to end in 2 minutes. This also works for e-commerce sales channels. I have a lot more to go. Product development, it can work as well. So the last thing I want to really encourage you to do is data is a strategic asset, but it's only valuable if it's used constructively and appropriately to deliver results, says Bernard Marr, the big data guru. So the whole point of this is you really want to take action. You know what? I'm going to just talk until this shuts us all out, and you will all get the slide deck, I'm sure, and you can read the last stuff about measurement. Ultimately, you need to once you've looked at this analysis, you need to come up with a hypothesis and say, I'm going to try this action, and I'm going to measure it. And so when measuring it, measure your average performance before the action, measure the average performance for an equal amount of time after your action, and you will know that it's actually had a long-term impact. I have 30 seconds left, guys. So I'm going to rather take this time to say thank you so much for the time. I'm Dean from Teacup Analytics. If you have any questions or want more, just email me, dean@teacupanalytics.com, and I'm happy to discuss this with you in person or via email. Thanks so much, everyone, for listening. I really appreciate it. So there's a lot more to this. If you want the slide deck, email me. I'll send you the slide deck if BrightTalk doesn't as well. And again, I appreciate all of you listening to my presentation. Thank you so much. And aim for that top right corner, guys. Cheers.